Hello everyone, welcome to a very special video. As you've read by the title, in this video I'll be showing you my custom series 3 of the Simpsons collectible minifigures, something that I've been working on for the past few months. The Simpsons has always been one of my favorite TV shows, and as such I've been wanting a continuation of the Simpsons line in LEGO since 2015. I mostly wanted a third series of the CMFs as I have the other two complete. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the Simpsons house or the Quickie Mart, and they still are to this day my most wanted sets. The years passed and nothing was released, so I thought, fine, I'll do it myself. Let's start with Homer himself in his Mr. Plow outfit. His head would require a new mold for the hat, but the rest of minifigure is actually pretty simple, only using a shovel as his accessory. I wanted to include an iconic outfit for him since the Homer minifigure from the second series was really lame, and I think Mr. Plow is quite fitting. Firestar Toys actually has a custom printed Mr. Plow, and he's the closest to my design that we'll ever get, so go give it a look. I knew I had to include at least two members of the Simpsons family, so here's Marge in her winter outfit and Maggie in her star snowsuit. While Marge is pretty simple, I'm very proud of how Maggie turned out. Let's face it, the existing Maggie minifigure is oversized as hell, and that's why she's smaller here. Her piece would obviously be a new mold, but similar to the existing wrapped baby piece, so a normal minifigure can hold her from the back. I debated whether I'd give Marge earmuffs or not, but since it would need a new mold, and there's already one for Maggie, I decided to just give her the existing headpiece. From now on, the rest of the minifigures are completely unique characters never done by LEGO, unless you count that Simpsons Break Like Me episode. Starting off, we have Lenny, one of Homer's best buddies. I'm really surprised that he has never made it into minifigure form, so he was an obligatory inclusion in this series. His accessories are pretty simple. For the donut, I wanted to make a new design, different to the already existing one, and for his coffee mug, it's got just a bit of printing of his best friend's name, Carl. And speaking of Carl, he's the next minifigure on the list. Just like Lenny, he should have been included in the first series, so I also had to add him. For the accessories included with him, I actually took inspiration from an existing Carl toy figure. There's his suitcase, since he's one of the most competent workers in the power plant, and an overflowed barrel of nuclear waste. Next up is Moe, and he actually was the first minifigure that I started drawing, but he went through a lot of redesigns in the meantime. He is probably one of the hardest characters to translate into minifigure form, but I think it turned out alright. He is using both dual molded legs and arms, which would be useful for other figures. He also comes with his iconic jar of pickled eggs, printed in a regular minifigure head, as well as just a cup, representing a beer mug. After Moe, we have Skinner! With quite a goofy look on his face, but I mean, he's a bit pathetic, so the expression is appropriate. For the accessories, I knew that I had to include a stick with a piece of shrimp from his duel with Bart. This would introduce a new piece that can attach to a stud on the underside. I also gave him a simple magazine, mostly as a throw-in. Working at Principal Skinner's school, we have Miss Hoover, Lisa's teacher. Her minifigure is pretty simple, even down to her accessory, just a green apple. Yeah, I didn't know what to put, so I went with an apple, cause that's what teachers eat, right? I also gave the minifigure an annoyed look, since it fits her character. Barney is our next minifigure, and while he isn't very complex, it was fun drawing him. I gave him a Duff beer bottle, which is kinda controversial. I think both Moe and Barney are in the same situation, since one owns a tavern and the other is always drunk. I don't know if LEGO would realistically do these figures, but they are major characters, so I had to put them in. Of course, they involve alcohol, but let's face it, if kids buy these figures, it's because they watch The Simpsons, and if they do, they just can't avoid the alcohol and sexual innuendos in the show. I figured that including these figures wouldn't be a problem. Lou is the 9th character on this list. I was going to either put Eddie or Lou in the series, but since they're both cops and therefore their outfits are pretty much the same, I decided to go with Lou since he's much more prominent than Eddie. He's pretty similar to the Chief Wiggum minifigure with some slight variations, and like Wiggum in the first series, this is the only figure with arm printing in this series, even if it's the slightest bit of printing. For the accessories, I gave him what you'd expect a cop to have: cuffs and a pistol, so nothing special there. Mayor Quimby, our next minifigure, has actually appeared in LEGO form before, in the Dimensions level pack, but was never made as a physical figure. I based my design pretty much on what you see in the game, and for the accessory I gave him the Judge's Gavel, an already existing piece from Series 9, since he does use it in the Town Hall reunions. Continuing with the Crooks, Fat Tony is next. I used a lot of colors that I'm not sure they exist in LEGO's palette, like his skin color. It's a bit darker than the regular yellow, but since he is from the Italian Mafia, it was needed. He also comes with a regular gun and wine glass. I had no idea that there was already a wine glass piece, but it was last used in a 2015 promotional set, so it's not a retired piece that LEGO couldn't produce. For the 12th figure of the series, we have Skinner's mom, Agnes. I thought of filling her spot with Mona Simpson, but Agnes is much more frequent in the show, hence her inclusion. I debated whether I'd give shoes to the female characters or not, but since LEGO can only print on two sides of the legs, I decided to leave it with no printing. I gave her a bingo sheet because, well, that's what older people play, and it was actually cool designing it, although I'm not sure if it's accurate as I've never played bingo. This next figure is definitely my favorite in this series. It's Sideshow Bob. And I'm super proud of how he turned out. Just imagine filling that hair in a blind bag. It would be ridiculously obvious that you would have picked a Sideshow Bob minifigure, probably even more than Marge, Patty or Selma. He would no doubt come with a rake, it's just a classic Simpsons gag. I also gave him a knife, and since I wanted to make it unique, its base color is black, but printed on the metallic part. If this series was real, Sideshow Bob would be the first minifigure I'd pick. Another figure I'm pretty proud of the final result is Sideshow Mel. He's an overall simple figure, but what totally makes him special is the inclusion of Mr. Teeny. His base mold is the monkey piece introduced in the 5th CMF series, but altering the mold a bit in the head to represent his cartoon look and also adding a hat. One fun fact about Mel, I couldn't draw his nipples because LEGO doesn't actually do that, so I took inspiration from Series 19 for his chest. Our second to last minifigure is Maud Flanders. Even though she died early in the series, I thought she would be a good inclusion, as I also wanted to include some relevant female characters, and she was present throughout at least 1/3 of the show. For her accessory, I just gave her a LEGO-fied version of her wedding with Ned. Finally, the last minifigure is Otto. Cletus was supposed to be filling the last spot, but one of my good friends on Instagram wanted an Otto figure, and I honestly think he's a more prominent character than Cletus. For his legs, I did something LEGO has never done. Triple molding. Look, they increased the minifigure prices in countries like the USA, so I figured that a new technique is due for the price increase. Apart from that, he is overall simple in terms of printing. The accessory was easy to come up with, it would obviously be an electric guitar. And that's it for this series. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making this, it truly was a blast. I know I still am missing some key and iconic characters like Kent Brockman, Reverend Lovejoy, Eddie, Cletus and such. But hey, I'm planning on eventually making a 4th series, so drop some suggestions in the comments. This list of minifigures really makes me think of how many important characters are missing, and makes me sad that probably we won't ever get them. The second series of the Simpsons figures really has some questionable choices like Hans Moleman or Professor Frink, when it could have had essential characters like Lenny or Carl. I also didn't want to waste spots with minifigures we already got, that's why I kept with just Homer and Marge with Maggie. Of course there are iconic outfits for both Lisa and Bart, but we really need new characters, not existing ones. Also, it's beyond me if this is perfect timing or not, but I've reached 2000 subscribers and I can't thank you enough. If you asked me 5 years ago when I started this channel if I thought I'd even get to 1000 subscribers, I would have said you were crazy. Thank you all so much for this amazing journey. I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to stay safe and stay at home.